Hello, welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire and motivate information leaders across the world.
Hello and welcome to the show. I always say at every podcast, I'm super excited because I love all my guests that come on the show, but I'm today with Becky Rawlings. Now, Becky, you are not an information manager. However, we have connected via LinkedIn about a podcast that I did with Beyond the Bio with Sophie Milliken. Today, I'm going to talk about your experience with storytelling, branding, and dyslexia, and also you're thinking about writing a book as well. Please tell the listeners who you are and what you do.
Thank you. I'm Becky. I'm just so pleased to be here. And thank you for having me on. So I actually work in communications. I worked in communications for about 20 years and now sort of specialize a little bit. And I work with financial services brands and I help them build trust through authentic, consistent storytelling, as you said. And the reason I do that really is because I'm really passionate about financial services, but I'm also really passionate about helping people make more of their money and understand money a little bit more and, make it work as hard as it possibly can for them. So through my work with brands, that sort of allows me to sort of distill some of this jargon and this, quite complicated industry into something a bit more simple that people can really relate to. I reached out to you because I heard you on a podcast, and weirdly, everything you said just really resonated with me. You talked a lot about your book and sort of the work that you've been doing, sort of the speaking opportunities that you do, and the things that you've sort of overcome, I guess, to get to that point. One being dyslexia and the other, you talked a lot about imposter syndrome. And it really sort of struck me because they're things that I really want to do. And then I realised the reason I'm not doing them is exactly because of those barriers. And I was just really sort of inspired by how you've sort of overcome that and what a great job you've done. And it made me think, actually, maybe I could possibly do that too. So thank you.
You're welcome. And absolutely anybody can do it. You just got to take that one foot in front of the other. Or I kind of work on imposter syndrome that's stairs. So you just take one step and then from another step, there's always going to be somebody higher than you and better than you, but you've just got to gradually keep on walking up those steps. And then you'll find you're in the middle and then there'll be people underneath you that will be in the same position that you guide along. And that's kind of where we're here today.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah. What I found really interesting about our industries is financial services and information management. You talk about the complexities of tone and the different kind of wording and kind of breaking it down so people can make it understanding using storytelling. That's one of the big things in our industry. It used to be like a very carrot and stick. I always think that's the right thing, carrot and stick, that, if we don't do this, we'll get fined. But there's a real shift recently that those techniques are working. So I'm very much around the storytelling and the branding aspect of information management. So can I just take from your experience the whole storytelling? So why do you focus so much on authentic storytelling?
I think mainly because there's so much noise. I'm talking to consumers, you're talking probably more, in a business context, but there's so much going on and there's so much sort of information being thrown at people. And I truly believe it's really hard. And maybe, this is something I've sort of learned over the years, but it's difficult for people to understand things unless you put it into some kind of context and something that sort of really resonates with them. So I think the storytelling is really important. I think being authentic is so important because, again, how do you stand out? How do you create something that's interesting and resonates with people that they want to engage with when there is all that noise that you're sort of trying to cut through? So I think it's about making things accessible, interesting, make things resonate, and then suddenly you start to get that cut through and you start to get the awareness that I guess that we're all trying to sort of achieve in these sorts of industries. I mean, you're right, regulated industries typically struggle with this and there's a lot of nervousness. I obviously work in financial services. I'm working with brands who are highly regulated. So they're a little bit slower to adopt some of these techniques because they are nervous, essentially. But I really feel like there's been a shift over the last few years. And I think our industry's been massively disrupted with fintechs and challenger brands. And I think that's actually been a really good thing because it's shaken up the industry a little bit and it's made people realise that they have to do things slightly differently.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's that authentic storytelling that can really drive that emotional impact that get people to buy into what you're. So talking about authenticity, you said that you were dyslexic. So I strongly believe dyslexia is a superpower and it should never hold you back. How has dyslexia influenced your career path?
I mean, considering I'm a dyslexic, I have chosen a rather strange career path. And also when I was at school, I did English literature and history, which were all written, essay-based subjects. So I was always, I loved writing. And then I went into communications, which is obviously a lot of written communications through, lots of different types of writing. So it's always been a challenge. So I don't really know why I did that, because I could have made life a lot easier for myself and gone into something completely different. But I think that I've just always been drawn to that sort of, the writing part of the job. So it has been challenging. And I am not the best speller in the world. So I think I really sort of trained myself to keep checking. So I overcompensate definitely with the, check 3, 4, 5 times, because I'm just be mortified if anything went out to clients, particularly with mistakes. But to your point, I think that there's some amazing opportunities for people with dyslexia, and especially in the sort of my industry. It's quite, it's a creative industry essentially, and I think we sort of over-index definitely on the creativity, and it's problem solving. And I think we have a really unique way of finding different solutions to challenges that potentially other people might not see. So I think that looking at a brief for me, I can sometimes see that very differently to other people in my team, and I might have a different approach to that, which actually absolutely is a superpower, and something that I think is really unique and valuable, especially in my industry. The other thing I would say is I think we have pretty high EQ. So I think emotionally we're pretty intelligent, like we spot stuff. We've got a sort of sixth sense for things. And I think that's not even just in the workplace. I think that's relationships in general. Like we know when something's off and we know when something's great. And I think, we're very sensitive to that sort of thing. So again, I'm client services. So I think that's a massive help. I can sense sometimes when something needs to happen that maybe some other people wouldn't potentially pick up on. So I definitely say now it's an asset. Maybe 20 years ago, I might have thought a bit differently, but I'm definitely now I wouldn't change it, put it that way. If I had the opportunity to change my brain, switch my brain, I don't think I would.
And I totally resonate with kind of what you're saying there from an emotional standpoint, but I just think it's amazing the way you're describing and talking about dyslexia as such a benefit and an asset, I think. And it's interesting you said about the writing, because actually I really enjoy writing, but it's getting the ideas from my head into that is I find the most challenging. So once I'm in a writing mood, obviously you said I've written a book, I'm like bang 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 bang. That helps with my ADHD though, in the hyper focus. But once I'm in it, So I think it's kind of that. And I think it's amazing you've gone into that, and I think it really shows that dyslexia, as long as you've got the right support in place, dyslexia shouldn't actually stop you doing anything. So I think that's
100%.
brilliant. You talked about imposter syndrome, and you've talked about like organizations not want to moving from carrot and stick to storytelling. Do you think organizations have their own imposter syndrome type? Oh no, I can't do that. The fear of kind of getting it wrong.
100%. I totally do. I think it's, I think actually this is something I've learned from the financial services industry. Sometimes when people don't really know what to do, it's just easier to do nothing. So that inertia is so rife. People don't really understand how to move their money, so they just don't move it and they'll just leave it there. And I think that happens quite a lot in businesses, especially sort of potentially bigger industry businesses. So there's sort of the really big banks where there's lots of different stakeholders, and sometimes it's difficult to make a change and do things slightly differently, because that you're sort of putting yourself out there, and if it fails, it comes down on you. I think back to imposter syndrome. I'm pretty sure everyone feels it at some point in their career. I can't believe that anyone goes through their entire career not having it. I'm sure it's a spectrum and a scale, but I'm pretty sure that people must sort of tackle that quite often.
And I think have you ever read the book The Chimp's Paradox? The Chimp's
No.
Paradox? So it's like good chimp, bad chimp, and it's just how you tame the chimp. And I think there's the same similarities really. Can you describe what the feeling sounds like in your head, particularly when you think about something ambitious, like you want to write a book, which is what you want to do? What does that feel like in your head, from the imposter syndrome to trying to get that book written?
I think it comes down to that sort of the classic imposter syndrome is, I'm going to get found out, and I'm actually, I'm not as good as people might think I am, or I'm perceived to be. And I think writing a book is like the ultimate vulnerability, isn't it? It's like you are putting yourself out there, and it's not an easy thing to do. So you're really challenging yourself, and then the output is something that feels quite vulnerable. So how then, I think that must hold so many people back, because you're just, what that fear of failure, I guess it comes down to, doesn't it? What if no one likes it? What if no one reads it? What if they do read it and they go in touch with me and say, this is absolutely ridiculous, what are you talking about? I think you sort of catastrophize a little bit about all the things that could possibly go wrong, and that sort of starts the negative thoughts, and then back to that inertia point, it's like, well, yeah, that sounds a bit, I'm not sure about that, maybe I just, I'll keep thinking I'm going to do it, but I won't do it. So you don't make that change.
Yeah. And one of the key things that I've done is used a software called bookmagic.ai. Help me structure the values of the book, chapters.
I've seen it, actually. It looks really good. And I think that's exactly it. It's the structure. Like, I've got the content, but it's like, how do you put that into something that's cohesive and interesting and keeps people engaged?
Yeah, and it kind of works you through a methodology. I found it really simple. So I had it for a couple of months, and then you basically populate it. It's not looking at a white piece of paper that you've just got to chuck stuff in. It was really, really useful to kind of frame that up, and then you can download it into Word. And then it was from Word. I was like, oh God, I've got loads of stuff now, because I was pulling in blogs that I've written and kind of all those things. And then I just got back to kind of rewriting it. So that I found like super useful. The way you described the will anybody like it type thing is mine hit when it hit Amazon.
Oh my God, I bet you were absolutely
I was freaking out.
I bet you,
At
I
this
can
time,
imagine.
it was published. People had started reading it. I'd had good feedback. Like
You
all
couldn't
of
bring it
this.
back.
I couldn't bring it back, but I obviously have beta readers, people that read it before, and they give you testimonies about it. And they'd all said how great it was, and it was going to change the industry, and such good feedback. As soon as it hit Amazon, I was like, oh my God, like people are going to like it. Exactly how you described it. And then one of my friends was just like, just get over it. Like, there's nothing you can do about it now. People don't like it. They don't like it. They'll probably won't tell you that they don't like it, but people will love it.
Yeah.
Because it's really good for the industry, and it's actually started to change our industry, and it's had such good feedback. So don't hold back with the concept. Otherwise, someone else is going to do it. Just do it. And it was really, it's a big word for me, cathartic. I think that's the right word. Writing it, because it was just nice to put everything that I'd learned over the last 9 years into one book, which is a framework that people can go and use. So I would
it's amazing. And what a
go
great
and
legacy.
do it, Becky. Yeah.
I know. Do you know what? I have written 1,000 words, Jacqueline. So I have started it.
Yay!
I know. I was like, God, I just need to just do this and just put something down. And so I have actually got the beginnings. Quite, a bit of a way to go, but it's a start, right? And I think that's an important step, isn't it? Just having that sort of, like, just go for it. And I mean, I just wrote, to be honest. I haven't read it back particularly, or I haven't sort of edited it. I've just literally just wrote, and I think that's hopefully a good starting point, and that'll motivate me. Just having something on paper makes me feel like I've started, and it's going to get easier.
100%. And one of the best advice that I had is that you do an hour every day, but you literally rock up out of bed, no coffee, nothing, and you just get into the writing mood. You just get it done, do it early. And that's how I got through it. And I'd set myself a deadline for the first draft, which was 3 months, just to get the first draft. Like, you just go back and read it after. But I was started it in October. I'd finished it by January and finished it out by May. I mean, it was backbreaking. It was the most amazing experience of my life now that I've done it. During that time, it was a huge challenge. So I really want to talk about your unique voice.
Yeah.
So I want to know for someone like you who's inspired to elevate your career, what do you think the biggest challenge is in finding the confidence to use your own unique voice?
Good question. I think it's hard, but I feel like this is what basically I'm telling my clients that they have to do. So it's a little bit rich if I don't sort of do it myself. I think being in communications as well, you're always behind the scenes, especially from an agency perspective. You never really, the client is the forefront and they are the ones in the spotlight. And your job is to make them famous. So actually sort of finding your own voice is quite hard because you're always that person that's looking for somebody else's voice. And it's very easy, it's always the same, isn't it? It's easy to give other people advice. It's really hard to take your own advice. So I've tried actually really hard to be a bit more visible and to find my voice a little bit more. And I think, if I'm telling brands they need to be authentic, then I need to be authentic as well. And I need to sort of practice what I preach a little bit. So I'm really trying to do that. And things like this are amazing, right? Because this is totally me. This is, doesn't get much more authentic than this. So I think trying to kind of put yourself out there a little bit. I'm trying to do more things that make me feel a bit uncomfortable. And I think that's the key. I think it's, you're never going to grow really unless you do stuff that pushes the boundaries and makes you feel a little bit out of your comfort zone. So that is what I'm trying to do. I think I know what my voice is, but I think I just have to have the confidence to share it more widely and be more authentic and just be me. And, I take this to my 9-year-old daughter. You're not going to be for everyone, and that's fine. That's okay. You've got to you find your tribe and you find the people that resonate with what you have to say and that sort of, they're the people that you want to make a connection with. So that's why being authentic is so important.
Amazing. I love that analogy. And how are you gonna build your confidence to do that, Becky?
I think it's just trying to get to your point on the steps. It's like taking that first step and just trying to take small steps, and that just really helps, doesn't it? Just build your confidence a little bit. Like if you can do, I wrote my first 1,000 words, and I'm like, okay, that's great. Now I can build on that, and I think that's that. You're never going to go from baseline to top of the mountain. You've got to take it slowly, and you've got to build your confidence along the way. And I think those little steps really do help to build your confidence and to make it feel more comfortable and to kind of get you on the right path to where you want to go. So that is my plan. Just small steps. Take it slowly. Just do what feels natural and authentic to me, and then hopefully it'll take me where I want to go. So I think 2026 is going to be a scary but exciting year.
I just want to talk a bit about branding. So in our industry, I'm very passionate about, we sell services, same as yourself, and we need to create a brand that we can actually sell to the business because, people can't see information. They can't see kind of the superpower of what we do. And they're similar industries. So I'm very much like create your own brand and then you can sell the brand back to the business so they can at least buy in. What advice could you give listeners today from your experience?
I think from my experience, it would be about showing outcomes. So I think, people want to buy something that they think is going to solve a problem or make their life easier or benefit them in some way. So I think if rather than selling the product, it's selling that, in my industry, I would say selling the lifestyle or selling, whatever that might be. But I think from potentially your industry, what is the outcome? What can they expect from that? And then sort of packaging that into the brand and trying to, back to that point around sort of finding your niche and being different. What is it that you offer that potentially others don't? And how can you what outcomes can you deliver in a different way or in a better way or whatever it might be, and how can you sort of articulate that? And I talk a lot about consistency, and I think is that message over and over again. I think people that builds trust, and then if people see that message again and again and again, then they'll say, oh, I know that brand, and I've caught up, yeah, that's what they stand for because I've heard them say it for the last 6 months or 12 months or whatever it might be. And that's how people really sort of start to buy into you and understand what you're there for and how you can help them. I think that's and then you start that conversation, don't you? And it's always difficult. Selling never happens overnight, but it's just that it does take time. And I think that's why brand is so important, because if you build a brand, that does build trust. And there's lots of research out there about sort of, the sales curve and how people buy from trusted sources. And I think if you can do that brand building piece, it's really valuable from a longer term sort of strategic positioning.
And there's also that elevation of your own personal brand, isn't it? So if you could give one piece of advice right now about
Yeah.
tackling imposter syndrome and starting a book, it would be, what would it be?
So I think it would be about being more compassionate to yourself. So I kind of have started to think about what I would say to my best friend if she was in my position, had all my years of experience and said to me, I want to do this, but I can't do it because I'm not good enough. And I would say, what are you talking about? Of course you are. You're amazing. You're going to be great. Give it a go. And I just think we're so harsh on ourselves. And, we sort of really beat ourselves up about stuff. And I'm going to try really hard to reframe things and think, well, if this was my friend, what would I say to her? And I'd encourage her, and I'd give her, everything I could to give her the confidence to go for it. So I think that's what I'm going to try and do for myself, and try and build that in a little bit more to try and make myself, a bit braver in the future.
I love that. I love that. And I say be bold, be brave, and be beautiful. Becky, this has honestly been, it's so inspiring. How can listeners reach out to you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Becky Rawlings.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. It's been
Thank
sensational.
you. Honestly, it's been great. Love
And I
chatting
wish
to
you every success with your book.
Thank you.
I want to know the title as well, so I can definitely keep in touch.
I will.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur with me, Jacqueline Stockwell. I hope you found this episode inspiring and helpful and have some takeaway tips that can be useful to you. If you liked this episode, please like, review and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more information leaders to stay inspired and listen to great content. Want to test out your strengths and weaknesses and measure it against our Empower framework? Please complete the scorecard. It's a great way to improve and evaluate your skills. You can find the scorecard at the end of the description of this podcast. Stay tuned for a new podcast every Thursday, and remember to be bold, be brave and be beautiful.